Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And I'm really excited to see everyone back again. Recently, I made a switch on my business phone and let me show you guys what I got here. So this is the old iPhone 7 Plus. I was having problems with the battery not lasting as long. And I was also having some issues when it comes to the applications that I use for work because the device is a little bit on the older side and doesn't get all the latest and greatest updates. So I upgraded it to the new iPhone 15 Pro Max. So old phone, new phone. Now this video is not going to be about all the greatest things about the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Trust me, there's a lot of channels that already take care of that. But what I am interested in talking to you guys about is what has happened over the last decade when it comes to actually buying a smartphone. I think that's very interesting. Not even just that whole process of buying the phone, but also as well the ease of doing everything yourself right from the comfort of your home. So I'm gonna date myself here a little bit, but if you're as old as I am, leave me a comment in the comment section below if this resonates with you. Back in the early 2000s, even mid 2000s, you didn't have your favorite tech YouTuber where you can go watch their content on what the latest and greatest smartphone is. The internet didn't have as much rich content as we have today. So what did you have to do? You actually had to get in your vehicle and you had to drive to your local carrier store in order to purchase your product, specifically your smartphone, or dumb phones, because there was a lot more dumb phones than there were smartphones. Now, occasionally, instead of going to a carrier store, you sometimes would go either to a Best Buy, a Circuit City, or a Radio Shack, or what we would call third-party stores, which, by the way, only one of those exists right now out of the three that I just mentioned. So once you got into the store, you had to talk to a representative who had to show you all the different phones that were available, and you would have a process where you would tell them what you're looking for and they would guide you into finding the right phone for you. So after a long process of figuring out what phone you're gonna be stuck with for the next 2 years, and why 2 years? Because back then we had a thing called contracts. So once you picked out the phone, you would sign your contract saying that, hey, you're gonna stay with the carrier and you're gonna stay with that device for the next 2 years. And you go through this whole process of signing paperwork. And let's be honest, I would say also read it, but most people never read the paperwork, they just signed it. So speaking of contracts, why is it that we had contracts back then? Well, back then, your price of your phone was actually baked into your monthly plan. So a lot of people paid little to actually nothing for the device. Everybody was used to that model, but most people didn't know that the price of the phone was actually in your monthly plan and you were paying for it whether you realized it or not. So now that you were done picking out the phone, going through the contracts, now it was time to actually move your data from the old phone to the new phone. And we moved that data with a device called Celebrite. So what is that device? Well, for those of you who may never seen this before, it's a device where it had multiple ports on it, and this device was capable of transferring data from pretty much majority of devices. So what you would do is you would plug in your old device and you would plug in your new device via USB, and then you would go down a list of manufacturers selecting the old phone and also the new phone and telling the device, hey, here's what I'm interested in transferring. It could be contacts, it could be pictures, it can be other types of data. And depending on how much contacts you had and how much pictures you had or other data, it could take anywhere from 5 minutes all the way up to several hours, depending on how much you had. And if you had a lot of data and it was gonna take you a couple hours, hopefully you went to a carrier store that was inside of a mall, so that way you can go shopping while your data was being transferred. Speaking of old stuff, I mean malls, do people still even go to them? Let me know in the comments below if you actually still go to malls. Once your data is done transferring, you actually completed the whole entire process at that point. You can take your old phone, you can take your new phone, you can take your paperwork that had your contract and all your information, and then you were ready to go home and play with your new device. Now, if you were there for quite some time, that meant you had to take a day off. Maybe you went on the weekends and you dedicated a whole entire day just to do this. Now, in today's world, and especially with my experience of going from the old iPhone 7 Plus to the new iPhone 15 Pro Max, that whole entire process was completely different. In order to choose what device made sense for me, I was able to go on the company's website, and specifically Apple's website, in order to compare and contrast the different iPhones that are available. Now that I had the information that I needed in order to purchase my new iPhone, I did that from the comfort of my home. Or in my case, I was actually on a business trip and I ordered it while I was on my business trip. And funny enough, the device was actually shipped to my home and it was waiting for me by the time I got back to my business trip, which is very different than what you had before. You can actually be productive and not waste your time in a store or in a mall. So now that I had my iPhone waiting for me as soon as I got home from my business trip, let's walk through some of the steps that I took in order to set up my iPhone from start to finish. The first step in setting up my brand new iPhone was, of course, unboxing everything and making sure that I had the accessories ready to install on the brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. And of course, you want to be able to take care of your device from the moment you open it out of the box. I mean, these devices are very expensive. They're not cheap. So you want to make sure that you're protecting them either with a screen protector or a case, and preferably both. After I was done installing the screen protector and putting on the case, the next thing on the list is to transfer my data from the old iPhone 7 Plus to the new iPhone 15 Pro Max. And no, we don't have to use that old Celebrite device in order to transfer our data. Let me show you that process and what that looks like. In order to transfer your data, whether you're using Mac or Windows computer, the first piece of software that you're gonna need is iTunes. So go ahead for your respective operating system, download and install iTunes. And if you have any questions on how you go about downloading and installing iTunes, leave me a comment in the comment section below and we'll make a video about it. After iTunes is installed, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to back up our old phone, and we do that by plugging that old phone, specifically in my case the iPhone 7 Plus. We plug it into the computer and we go ahead and we wait for iTunes to recognize that phone. Now keep in mind, when I plug in my old iPhone 7 Plus, in order for iTunes to be able to communicate with the phone, there's a message that comes up on the screen that asks if you trust the iPhone communicating with the computer. In order for iTunes to see the phone, you have to hit trust. Once you allow the phone to communicate with the computer, you'll see that the iPhone, specifically in my case, the iPhone 7 Plus, shows up in my iTunes. And how we notice that it shows up in the iTunes is there's a little phone icon right next to where it says music. So let's go ahead and click that. And once we click that, you start to see more information about the phone. You get to see the capacity, you get to see the phone number that's attached to it, and of course the serial number, and as well what iOS version it's running on. Now this is how simple this is. In order to back up the phone, you go to the section where it says backups, and under where it says automatically backup, you want to switch from iCloud to this computer, and after you make that switch, you just click backup now under where it says manually backup and restore. And once you do that, your phone is being backed up to the computer. At this point, you give it some time in order to back up all your information. And depending on how much information you have, this can take several minutes up to several hours. So be patient while this process completes. Hey guys, quick pause. If you're getting any value out of this video, go ahead and give me a like for the video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any videos that we post, and share the video with a family member or friend. All right, back to the video. Once the process completes, now you can eject the old iPhone, and we do that by pressing the eject button all the way in the top left-hand corner next to your iPhone's name. Now you're ready to plug in the new iPhone in order to restore your backup. So let's go ahead and plug in the new iPhone. Once the computer recognizes the new iPhone, you're going to be presented with this screen here that says, welcome to your new iPhone, and you can set it up as a new iPhone or restore from a backup. So in my particular case, we're going to restore from a backup, and specifically the iPhone 7 Plus backup. So let's go ahead and click on restore from this backup, and we're going to click continue. We're going to accept the license agreement, and we're going to hit continue. Now we wait for the iPhone to sync and restore your backup. And once it's done, your phone will tell you that the phone has successfully restored itself from a previous backup. And once it's done restoring, you can go ahead and eject the iPhone the same way you did with the iPhone 7 Plus, and you're pretty much done transferring all your data. Now that I have all my data on my new iPhone, now it's just a matter of activating it. And specifically when it comes to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the phone has built-in eSIMs. So now we just make a phone call to our carrier and go ahead and activate the device. Now that my phone is activated and everything is working, you pretty much have everything done. All your accessories are installed and set up. Your data is on your new phone and it's activated and everything is working between data, text, and calls. The last thing, and this is really optional and it's just up to you, is you can go ahead and take the old phone and you can go ahead and wipe it in case you want to sell it or in case you want to give it to somebody else. In my case, I actually already sold this device and I needed to wipe the data off of it to make sure that somebody else can use this device. From start to finish, this process took me about 1 hour. Now, of course, your mileage may vary depending on how much data you have or how fast your computer is or how competent the person you call over the phone is to activate your phone. I mean, there's a lot of variables, but for the most part, this process was very, very smooth, and it's very interesting because I spent a total of 1 hour compared to what used to happen a decade ago where you would have to spend up to a whole entire day in a store. So it's really, really interesting how times have changed. It's crazy to think that you can do everything from the comfort of your home, all from figuring out what device you want, all the way to ordering it, transferring your data, installing accessories, contacting your carrier to make sure it's activated. I mean, just that whole entire process is crazy to think that back then we used to all do that in a store and we'd all had to drive and go somewhere to do that. Now you can do that all from the comfort of your home, which is really, really amazing. So let me know if you are as old as I am and you remember that process of going into the store and actually activating things and going through that whole entire process. Man, what a waste of time I think that was. Let me know if you have any questions on how to back up and restore your iPhone's data. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. If you have any other questions, go ahead and leave me a comment and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you like the content, make sure you give me a like for the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any videos we upload, and share the video with a family member or friend and ask them if they remember what it was like to purchase a phone 10 years ago. So that'll do it for this video. I'll see everybody in the next one.